Oh, hello there, fellow detective. Looks like you got assigned to this case too, huh? What? You don't know what I'm talking about? Don't tell me. Did you lose your memories? That's pretty cliche, But fine, I'll fill you in. Our client gave us this material here, Raincoat. They said it wasn't great and we need to figure out why. So, are you ready to give up your life in the search of truth? Down the rabbit hole we go. Yeah. According to the client, the developer of Raincoat is Spike Chunsoft, a Japanese company. The only other titles I'm familiar with from them is the Danganronpa series. They're visual novel-esque games with some puzzle and adventure mechanics, centered around solving murders. Personally, I like these games and so does the client. Raincoat borrows many elements from this series, especially when it comes to conducting investigations and playing minigames while trying to find the culprit. It does seem like Spike Chunsoft has tried to expand upon a formula that they deemed as successful, as the scope of Raincoat is definitely larger. Huh? Could that be a clue? That sometimes larger doesn't equal better? Let's investigate this further. In Raincoat's prologue, you start as Yuma Cocohead, an amnesiac protagonist. You don't know who you are or why you're there. Hey, that's kinda like you. Anyway, Yuma wakes up in a storeroom and finds a directive from the World Detective Organization, or WDO, to board a specific train. On this train, he finds detectives who are also part of the organization. They don't know who Yuma is, but deduce that he must be the trainee assigned to the case, since there were already 5 main detectives. The detectives there introduce something called forte, a power that many individuals in the WDO have. Usually, the fortes are used in a way that helps them solve cases. For example, this girl has super hearing. This lady can talk to ghosts of the deceased. Okay, spoilers for the prologue ahead. Things spiral out of control and Yuma ends up in a dangerous situation. He discovers that all the other detectives are dead. He also finds out that he's being haunted by a mysterious floating purple ghost called Shinigami. Mysteriful. Shinigami becomes Yuma's quirky companion, always by his side. So, Yuma goes around looking for clues until the train finally arrives at its destination. There, he's accused of killing all the detectives by the enforcers of Kanai Ward, the peacekeepers. Seems like a pretty cool start, huh? And killing off characters that were introduced just a minute ago sounds pretty shocking. So while Yuma is about to be arrested, Shinigami reveals her true powers as a death god, stops time, and the two enter something called the Mystery Labyrinth, a manifestation of the mystery before them. And that's how most of the story goes. Something suspicious happens, where someone or some people are killed, and then you go to the Mystery Labyrinth to solve it. Later, Yuma manages to actually enter Kanai Ward with the help of Yako, the chief of the Nocturnal Detective Agency. Kinda like the regional branch of the WDO. There he meets a more permanent cast of WDO detectives, and it's here that they're told what their main goal is. Find out Kanai Ward's ultimate secret, or something along those lines. The backdrop of Raincoat is a city that's been isolated from the rest of the world. It's constantly raining, and Kanai Ward is painted as a gritty landscape under the rule of a megacorp called Amaterasu Corporation. Crime is rampant, but the peacekeepers are quick to arrive on the scene, and also quick to close cases. I don't know about you, but to me, this all sounds like a pretty cool setup. I'd be pretty invested at this point. From what I understand, there's a total of 5 chapters, not including the prologue. I wonder where it all went wrong. Hello, it is I, the client. I wonder if the detectives I hired have made any progress. Well, no matter. I will now monologue to myself, and only myself, about how Raincoat fell short. The story, the setup was promising, but chapters 1 to 3 felt like such a slog. Overarching goal of finding out Kanai Ward's ultimate secret felt like it was pushed aside. None of the cases here are really tied to that, and they felt more like a distraction, padding even. In all of these cases, the main thing you learn is that the peacekeepers are bad and corrupt, that they don't care about investigating properly. Peacekeepers? Oh yeah, During every case, there's a big boss peacekeeper there to get in your way, but then at the end, they disappear and you forget all about them. Except for this lady. She appears one more time, making a complete 180 from looking like she gets turned on by abusing her power in chapter 2 to suddenly being good by the end of chapter 4. You'd think there's some kind of character development for her between these chapters, but nah, not really. She barely had any screen time. But this is a repeat problem for Raincode. They introduce a lot of characters that could be interesting, but then quickly discard them. And there's also a bit of a silly story hole. If the peacekeepers don't care to investigate and jump to the easiest conclusions, why plan such elaborate murders? Whoever the culprit is, as long as they're not found at the scene of the crime or literally committing the murder, they'd probably get away. In fact, Yuma gets accused several times for being in said situation. Feels like it's being set up just for the player. It's immersion breaking. Do you know what else is immersion breaking? So when Yuma solves a mystery labyrinth, Shinigami reaps the soul of the culprit. Therefore, when they return to the real world, culprit just drops dead with no explanation. So how is Yuma supposed to prove his or someone else's innocence after solving the case? Well, in one scene, Shinigami literally possesses one of the dead bodies and outright says, "Oh, by the way, guys, I did it. I'm the culprit. Okay, bye." When that scene played, I couldn't believe my eyes. Have them confess in real life before they die or something. It would still have the same moral effect of taking a life, except better? Since I mentioned Shinigami, let's talk a little about her. Now, I don't mind her design and I'm all for the magical girl-esque transformations and silliness she adds to Raincode. However, something she did midway through the game started really grating on me. In chapter 2, the backdrop of the case is an all-girls school in Kanai Ward. It's here that Shinigami starts behaving in a way that I can only call as jealous. Like, Shinigami is supposed to be your all-powerful companion, right? And because Yuma lost all his memories, she also tries to guide him into becoming a legit detective, a guardian, although a silly one, who saves him in dire moments. Imagine how absurd it would be to have a male guide or guardian who starts sulking and then getting jealous because a female protag is surrounded by men. And imagine if this alternate protag meets a male character who ends up being an informant and the male Shinigami keeps calling him small dick because that's what Shinigami does. This girl, Kurumi, who is a recurring character, yeah, that's Flatty. You'll hear that nickname a lot. And it doesn't stop in chapter 2. In chapter 3, this woman Fubuki is your detective partner for that chapter. She's portrayed as a bit, dumb because of her sheltered upbringing. She goes with you through the mystery labyrinth and throughout the chapter, Shinigami keeps calling her a sheltered skank, an airhead, saying she's useless, the works. Fubuki, being written as she was, would take offense not to the mention of skank, rather to the sheltered part. Ha! Such a good joke. Good job, writers. Women, huh? They all hate each other, am I right? Okay, let's talk about the ending. In chapter 5, the story takes a sudden turn. Suddenly, zombies. I was confused, baffled. The weird tonal shift was not something I was expecting, but okay, intriguing. As Yuma goes through this abandoned village full of zombies, he sees some people he knows, or should I say, dead people he knew. Run, and then Yuma ends up in some weird factory. He finds some notes stating that the zombies are homunculi, and that they survive off of eating human flesh. And going further into the factory reveals that factory makes meat buns. And instantly, I thought of Sweeney Todd. You know, that killer butcher and the lady who makes meat pies out of his victims. And then, the next connection I made was, oh wow, everyone in Kana Ward is a homunculus, huh? Because they kept eating those meat buns. But this guy right here, he didn't get it. He didn't make the connection until way later. There's even a point where Yuma finds a machine that makes clouds and as a byproduct constant rain in Kanai Ward. He switches it off, and his companion mysteriously begins to faint. And he still didn't make any kind of connection? There were just so many hints, like the mysterious blood test all the residents had to take, and the ones that didn't disappeared, coupled with the fact that homunculi are built on people's DNA and are essentially a copy of them. So many clues. But Yuma? Clueless. Any surprise reveals had no impact, and at that point, I just wanted it to be over. The last chapter wasn't the only chapter where I understood something faster than Yuma did. In chapter 1, as shallow as this sounds, you eliminate suspects based on things like the culprit has a small stature, culprit needs 2 functioning hands, and if you do that, it was pretty obvious. In chapter 2, by collecting clues, it becomes apparent that the crime couldn't have been committed by just one person. But Yuma needs the whole mystery labyrinth segment to figure that out. In chapter 3, after investigating, I just guessed the culprit based on the solution keys, even if one key clue was hidden until you get into the labyrinth. How, you might ask? Because the placement of the gun in the wrong hand of the victim, as in, he was left-handed, ruled out gun girl here, and the old man had an alibi, and this bomb dude was afraid of water and swimming, and since there was this theme of flooding, it had to be the swimmer dude. And I was right. Chapter 4 wasn't any better. Once you figure out that the only way someone could get past this toxic gas room with deadly gas that kills you after 30 minutes, the answer becomes clear. Getting through the game was hard. I really wanted to like Raincoat. The worst part is, Yuma is actually #1 best detective in the world before he lost his memories after making a pact with Shinigami. Does losing your memories make you dumb too? I need a break. Oh, hello, there you are. Let's continue our investigation, shall we? How about a look at how Raincoat is played? It looks like a lot of pressing forward, doesn't it? Huh? What's this? The dreaded QTE? No, but then what's that? Even worse? QTE is where you have to select the right answer to a question? How are you supposed to have enough time to both read and react? That was horrible. Surely there are better examples of gameplay, like here. Oh, looks like there are side quests where you basically just go between NPCs and the reward is EXP. Looks like this EXP is used to level up your skill tree. Oh, client left a note about this. It says basically they only leveled up HP and the skill tree for a particular Mystery Labyrinth minigame. This one, where you have to guess a specific word and spell it out by throwing swords at the correct letters, only because sometimes there are multiple words you can use for one concept. They didn't level anything else up so that the game wouldn't become easier than it already is. Guess it kind of removes the incentive to gain EXP, huh? There's also this reasoning deathmatch. You listen to a mystery phantom speak and try to counter weak arguments with facts in the form of solution keys. You also have to dodge or attack irrelevant commentary. That actually sounds pretty fun, except once you start getting into them, they end pretty quickly. They do resume in later parts, but having them broken down into short segments kind of ruins the fun. At the end of a mystery labyrinth, there's also this bizarre QTE segment where you press a key corresponding to the obstacle. If it's a wall, you press X. If it's spikes, A. If it's a cannonball, you kick it with B. For a game about mysteries and solving them, this is kind of brainless. What a shame. It's clear the developers wanted to create a cool new setting and lore, as well as experiment with having a more open world. But it falls short not only in gameplay execution, but because of plot flaws. Huh? Why am I suddenly talking as if I played Raincoat? Well, I suppose it's time to reveal my secret. That's right, I'm actually the client. Just as this mysterious masked character, Makoto, that Yuma meets in Raincoat is actually his homunculus. Haha, bet I caught you off guard, huh? Now, let me reveal one more disappointment. Remember how I said everyone in Kanai Ward is a homunculus and that they needed to eat human flesh to survive? Well, it turns out Makoto had been getting criminals transferred to Kanai Ward to be turned into meat bones. In the end, at Yuma's request, Makoto reveals the truth to the residents of Kanai Ward. When the homunculi escaped, they were enraged by sunlight and ended up killing the original residents of the city. So Makoto makes a cloud machine, they all calm down, and just assume their roles as if they were the originals. So in the epilogue, you see Kurumi who's getting ready to go on a journey. Everyone in town is doing just fine and dandy. They've accepted that they're immortal copies and have even started saying things like, good rain to you. They've also stopped eating the meat buns and have instead started eating ramen made by the original detective trainee that Yuma took his identity from. Remember? Because Yuma is actually the one. When I saw this, I thought, what a cop-out. Let's just erase all the moral implications of being a human eating immortal being by having them eat ramen that has been carefully crafted to have all the nutrients homunculi need. And also, is no one disturbed by the fact that they're a copy, that they killed the original, that they did once continuously and satisfyingly devoured human beings? No existential crisis, no sinking into ultimate despair. Everyone's just cool. Okay, I guess. Overall, 5 out of 10. Would not recommend.